Power creep is inevitable. If not to sell you the shiny new character, it's to make the new stuff at least worth trying. And while Genshin has been particularly resilient to power creep for most of its life, yeah, the cracks are starting to show. In an attempt to counteract this power creep and keep old characters relevant, patch 6.2, patch Luna 3 is buffing a lot of old characters. 7 of them, in fact. And I really like these buffs. Now, while everyone is talking about how good these buffs are, because they are, personally, I love complaining. It's like the main thing I do, and while I do like these buffs, there is one small thing that irks me, and is part of a worrying pattern when it comes to character design in this game. As part of these buffs, every single HexY character is getting a passive that only activates if you have another HexY character on your team. Fischl's massive attack and EM buffs are locked behind having another witch on your team, and while it's cool to be able to pair Fischl and Razor together to make an Arlecchino level team, I have a problem with this kind of implementation since it creates a very artificial limitation in team building. This issue is best seen with Nodquai characters. Kirill Chudamirovich Flins has a passive that outright says you need both another Nodquai character and a Hydro character on your team. If nothing else, you at least need Ino, or maybe Columbina in the future. Kirill Chudamirovich Flins also has a soft requirement of needing another Electro character, since he has a bad energy problem otherwise, which altogether kind of means he has like one team archetype and that's kind of it. While there is some flexibility in that archetype since you have like one flex slot, your options are pretty limited. Him needing another Electro is mostly fine, in my opinion, because it's a result of energy reliance. It's not directly stated that you must use an Ether with him, but an Ether is a really good solution to the problem of energy. What I like about it, or what I think mitigates the issue a bit, is that it doesn't have to be an Ether. You can use Fischl. If you're crazy enough, you can use Electro Traveler. You don't even necessarily need an Electro character. You could be psychotic enough to put all of your characters on Favonia's weapons to give them 4-piece exile. You can run Kirill Chudamirovich Flins without an Electro character, but you must run him with another Nodquai character and a Hydro character. Bonus points if they're both. This kind of restriction is kind of frustrating to have on a character like Kirill Chudamirovich Flins, since as an Electro character there are a lot of alternative teams you could put him on and I think would be incredibly funny, but you just kind of can't, if you want to make the most of what he's capable of, that is. Aggravate teams solve his energy needs with Fischl, but don't trigger Lunar Charge, so he loses 2/3 of his damage. Overload teams give him massive buffs with Chevreuse and Bennett, and take advantage of his EM buffs with big overload damage, but they don't trigger Lunar Charge, so there goes 2/3 of your damage. Even Hydroloom teams seem like they should be able to do something. Run a Hydro character and have Llama be your other Nodquai character, and in all fairness, it does kind of half work, but your Lunar Charge uptime is not great, so there goes 2/3 of your damage again. These are cool team ideas that he technically has access to since he's Electro, but he has a passive that says you need Lunar Charge and Ascending Gleam, so these teams are going to feel horrible. And so when I see these witch buffs, I'm kind of reminded of Kirill Chudamirovich Flins, and how you should subscribe, maybe, probably. Sorry, I don't really know where else to put this. These kind of restrictions aren't just bad because they restrict your creativity. They're pretty bad, at least from a consumer end, because they're a pretty obvious ploy to make you summon for characters you otherwise wouldn't. Take Skirk, for example. She has a passive that basically says that you need a full Cryo or Hydro team. I mean, it uses a lot more words than that, but that's basically what it says. If you have a full Cryo and Hydro team, you get to activate her full potential. If you don't, her damage falls off of a cliff. Now, a full freeze team with only Cryo and Hydro characters wasn't really anything new by Skirk's release, since, coincidentally, the patch before Skirk's release, Hoyo released a completely broken and unfair character called Escoffier. Escoffier? Yeah. Close enough. Who, alongside being an off-field Cryo DPS and healer, also has a passive that shredded enemy resistances depending on how many Cryo and Hydro characters you had. The resistance shred you got from a full Cryo and Hydro team was an insane 55%, almost 1.5 times the amount you get from Veritas and Venerir. In all fairness, the passive did still work if you didn't have a full Cryo or Hydro team, but 5, 10 and 15% is kind of nothing compared to 55. It's very clear that Skirk and Escoffier were both made with each other in mind and were designed to be each other's best teammates. If you were a player who was excited for Skirk's potential release and have been saving up to summon her, it would feel really bad to get Skirk without Escoffier. And if you're a player who looks at leaks, you'll have learned about Skirk's kit during Escoffier's banner and would have come to the pretty obvious conclusion conclusion that Escoffier is part of Skirk's best team. If Skirk didn't have that passive that forced her into freeze teams, some of that power budget could have been allocated elsewhere, and you could have skipped Escoffier in favour of running Skirk in some other team like Forward or Reverse Meld, and still had a pretty competitive team even without the shiny new character from last patch. But because she does have that passive, you need to run her in a freeze team, and if you need to run her in a freeze team, you need Escoffier. Now, the examples I brought up were pretty egregious, but credit where it's due, it's nowhere near as bad for the Hexai buffs. In fact, it's both really free-to-play friendly and new player friendly. Of the 7 characters getting buffs, 4 of them are 4 stars. Long-time players like myself will likely have most, if not all of these at C6. And for the new players, these characters are easily accessible via the Style Glitter shop, so there is a guarantee you can get these characters even if you have really bad 4-star luck. Even one of the buffed 5 stars is a standard character, meaning you can get a free Mona every year from the selector. You can get a consolation for free from the Temper Thyself and Journey Far event, and you can get a free Mona every time you lose your 50-50, if that counts as a free Mona. So when it comes to activating the passive, you have a lot of really good and easy options. Even the shiny new Hexai character they're adding in 6.2, Durin, is the every character you can put in basically any team. He's likely going to be a really good option if you want to activate the passives of other Hexai units, and if it's Durin you care about, you'll likely have another Hexai unit on your account that you can already make a good team with. Currently, the implementation of the Hexai passive seems to be pretty consumer friendly. Almost too consumer friendly, especially for Hoyo. Suspicious, isn't it? Just because you have a lot of options, and even 4-star options to activate a passive, doesn't mean this mechanic can't be used against us. Just look at Mawiko. Her burst has a line that basically says you can't use her burst every rotation unless you have another Natlan character. It uses more words than that, but that's basically what it says. Now, there are a lot of Natlan characters in this game, and some of them are even 4 stars, but none of them, barring Jalonen, were all that good for her, at least on Mawiko's release. And if you wanted to unlock Mawiko's true potential, you needed a very specific Natlan character, Citlali. And when Mawiko's banner first rolled around, you'll never guess what 5-star was running right alongside her. Now, there are other characters that do what Citlali does to varying degrees of success. Rosaria and Kea are both really good mount characters, but unfortunately, neither of them are Natlan characters. And so, on Mawiko's release, neither of them satisfied the condition that was baked into her kit. This problem has been kind of almost half solved with the release of Yansan, but by Yansan's release, they'd already made most of their money by then. And so I look at the 2 upcoming very likely to be witch characters, Alice and Nicole, and sure, it's very likely that you can use the other witch characters to activate their passives. However, I know they're going to use this witch faction as a way of designing problems into their kits and selling the other characters as a solution, like they did with Mawiko and Citlali, Llama and Nefer, and Skirk and Escoffier.